Hello everybody. This time I'm taking a break from flight simulated videos and well, I have already done this once with War Thunder naval mode, and now I'm looking at another naval game, War on the Sea, a strategy game. Currently it's taking place on Guadalcanal campaign on Pacific, so pitting United States Navy against Imperial Japanese Navy. And quite frankly, this is exactly the kind of game that I have been dreaming of for many years. In fact, actually, I was planning to make one. I have even started making a game quite similar to this. Mine was a little more ambitious, but then real life got in the way. But yeah, Killerfish Games, known from Cold Water's fame, have brought us a nice game, but it's quite early access right now, and it does have quite a few bugs, but patches are quite frequent already. The game is quite new, it's been barely a week. But yeah, let's take a look at it. So how does War on the Sea work? Well, a surface combat oriented naval strategy game isn't something that we had a lot of in recent years, but nowadays we're getting three of them. One of them is Ultimate Admirals Dreadnoughts, but that one is a little more on the build your own ship side instead of having historical ships. We have War on the Sea that has just came, and in some near future, I guess, we will also have, I think it was called Task Force Admiral, or was it Carrier Command, something like that, from Microprose. I feel like that one might prove to be the best one, but War on the Sea is pretty good as well. And I think in the future, War on the Sea developers also plan to branch the game out to other theaters as well, like Atlantic. What you can do in the game, well, you have the campaign, which is really nice, and we'll get back to it later. Then you have single missions scenarios depicting historical face-offs. And finally, you have the skirmish, where you can create your own scenario by pitting whatever ships, submarines, and aircraft you want against each other. We have, well, naturally, surface ships. Currently, it isn't the whole roster for either Japanese or United States navies. But right now, they have both two battleship classes available and one type of carrier. They have a lot of different destroyers and a few light cruisers, and quite a few heavy cruiser types are available. And then each navy have submarines. They are not overly different from one another, at least within the navies themselves, and it's not like you have all the submarine classes that were available through each navy. Right now it's a little limited, but submarines are very effective in the game. And finally you have aircraft, including some land-based bigger bombers, but predominantly scout aircraft from your cruisers, battleships, even submarines in case of Japanese, as well as carrier-based dive bombers, torpedo bombers, and carrier-based fighters. And the aircraft are quite important, as they were in real Pacific theater as well. Yeah, the campaign, getting back on it, there are two phases, or rather two screens. One is the map, where you control your fleets, your aircraft. You also create them, and you are supposed to take your supplies to Guadalcanal and keep it from falling to enemy, and you have to build a level 5 airbase on it. That's the goal for both United States and Japanese campaign right now. But it's quite challenging. You need to move cargo ships and tanker ships without them getting sunk by aircraft, submarines, or enemy surface patrols. So you have to escort them. But Guadalcanal is quite far to your available air bases. Therefore, you either have to invest in a carrier or build additional small bases by capturing possible areas on the map, etc. It's almost exactly like how I imagined creating the campaign for my game, to be honest. You are able to repair ships, and damage is consistent. If a ship gets, let's say, hit by a torpedo or a bunch of shells in a battle, some of it is repairable, but eventually, after a certain degree, that damage is not repairable, and your ship will start following battles like that unless you release it at your home port for repair. And with repair, when you release it, you get reimbursed some of the command points, so you can build something else for your navy. And the world screen, apart from the map itself, is where the actual action takes place. You get to 3D world rendering on the ocean, and you can command your ships in groups, create formations with them, or individually. You command them either on a minimap, or you can manually use commands for their speed, rudder, and in case of submarines and planes, also their height. What is really nice for me is that the targeting is tied to fire control systems available on the ships. For example, big cruisers and battleships have usually two fire directors, which means you can target two different ships at the same time, and you can choose some turrets to fire under command of one fire control system, and other turrets follow the other one, so you can have accurate fire on two different ships. And this is a realistic limitation. Smaller ships, like some more basic light cruisers or your destroyers, generally have a single fire control unit, which means they can only engage a single target accurately. And it also works for torpedo targeting as well. And you have pretty decent control over your torpedo salvos. Only thing missing is depth control. Looks like they have a default standard depth setting. And yeah, it's pretty nice, really, if you're looking forward to a naval strategy game. Yeah, this is really interesting. I would suggest you to take a look at it. So how is the game right now? Well, first off, I'm not usually a graphics crazy guy. I tend to care more about realism, game mechanics, and atmosphere in the game than amazing looking graphics. But I have to admit that graphics in War on the Sea aren't all that great by today's standards. To be honest, the Killer Fish's previous game, Cold Waters, even though it also had relatively austere graphics, I think it looks on average better than War on the Sea. The models and textures look nicer in the previous game. But yeah, at least the time of the day and weather effects are nice, so there's that. And the ships do look the part, just not amazingly so, but you can tell a Takao class is a Takao class, or a Yamato is a Yamato, etc. And then you have the controls and UI, which are clunky, janky, and usually also buggy. But it's not so horrible that you can't get used to it at all. And I'm getting used to them, and I'm more comfortable with most of the things right now. But some of the things are a little confounding. For example, in one case, in a night battle, I shot some star shells from a couple of my ships, and then I have switched to HE. But fast forward like 15 minutes, I see there's a pretty much floating lake of light above the target. And I have realized my ship was still firing star shells, even though I have switched to HE. And the only way I can actually make it to start shooting HE instead was to tell him to stop firing, then switch to HE again, and then start firing again. There are some janky mechanics like this, and I don't know. I don't remember it being in tutorial. But if that's intended behavior, it should be told somewhere, I would say. And I would rather prefer that not to be the intended behavior. And but yeah, overall I do like how much control you have over your torpedoes, apart from not being able to set depth. And the fact that you can enable or disable individual turrets in primary or secondary batteries. Yeah, it's pretty great overall. It's fairly detailed. And speaking of detail, there are some pretty nice cases of attention to detail that I really like. For example, some historical facts are nicely represented. One case being American torpedoes for a good bit of the war were pretty much horrible, like entirely useless almost. There has been cases of submarine commanders pretty much pulling their hairs off because releasing a successful spread of torpedoes, hitting many high-value targets, and only hearing impact of dud torpedoes time and time again. And I think in one case they have tried 3 consecutive attacks on a convoy, which was escorted by destroyers even. And that risky business proved nothing but successful hits that failed to detonate. This was rectified only later in war. Drakini Fell has an excellent video on this. Actually, I would suggest anyone who didn't watch it to watch to learn more about this. But yeah, I have experienced quite a similar case when playing American side of the campaign. My submarine came across a Japanese task force that had like 2 or 3 heavy cruisers, about as many light cruisers, and escorted by only 1 or 2 rather crappy destroyers. I have released all my torpedoes, scored a lot of hits, only 2 of which successfully detonated, and they hit 2 different ships, the exploding ones, and the ships just merrily kept sailing on their ways. The torpedoes weren't enough to sink them. If even 70% of my hits actually detonated, I probably would have sunk 3, maybe 4 ships. And in practice, I wasn't able to sink even one. And on the Japanese sides, the torpedoes go boom pretty nicely. They are faster as well. They also go dud every now and then, but not nearly as much. But I don't know if that's a historical thing or a bug, not entirely sure, but sometimes I had Japanese torpedoes go under my target ships, so maybe a faulty depth setting or a bug. And other times, also not sure if a bug or a feature, I have had torpedoes that had to do crazy gyro angle setting turns. I had them basically go the exact opposite direction they should have gone. Also, another thing is that when you compare Japanese heavy cruisers with American, at least early American ones, the Japanese look impressive on paper, but thanks to technological advances Americans had in terms of radar and fire control, in night, bad weather and bad sea states, actually American ships do score hits pretty good, while the Japanese ones tend to struggle. In fact, quite few of the Japanese ships are equipped with radar in campaign, and even those that have radar, the radars just aren't as good as the American ones. So I like that individual advantages and disadvantages of each navy is represented pretty nicely. That's the kind of attention to detail I enjoy seeing. And finally, in campaign, it's also quite well represented, the disparity in numbers. On campaign screen, you can press F6 and see numbers in each ship class available to each navy. And the current Japanese campaign I'm playing, I have lost about 48,000 tons of ships and sunk about 400,000 tons of ships. And I still don't feel like I have made a dent, and I already am getting worried about what's available to me to go on, because the American Navy, along with a few British cruisers available, or rather Commonwealth cruisers available, because some of them are Australian, New Zealandian, etc. They have a lot more available, even if I sink a lot. So I am, especially campaign mode, I'm liking a lot, and the game has a lot of potential to grow. And Killer Fish Games seems to be making fixes and updates quite frequently, and they hope to include other theaters of war as well, as far as I know. And we can perhaps even experience Atlantic as well. We can see like Bismarck, Scharnhorst, Hood, etc. going head to head. But lacking a carrier should prove interesting and difficult for Kriegsmarine. But then again, everything is difficult for Kriegsmarine. It's not a good idea to go against Royal Navy, I guess, but that makes it even more fun to try, I would say. So, War on the Sea. For naval warfare in Dreadnought era nerds like myself, this game is pretty nice to have. It does have some issues right now, but even so, it is still fun. And it will probably improve. although it is very raw early access right now. So if that bothers you a lot, maybe wait a little more. But if you're interested in naval warfare, especially in World War II, I would definitely say check it out. So I guess that's it for me for now, and hope to see you next time.